Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. The market is not really doing anything this morning, unfortunately. We're just seeing a lot of consolidation. The SPY is in a major channel between 442 and right around like 446, you can say. There's another resistance right around 448, but so far, Tom, I wish we had some more movement on the SPY, but it's just not doing anything.
Yeah, me too, Mike. And there wasn't even any huge news that really dropped last night or anything like that. We've been kind of expecting some more Russian news to come out, but it looks like that news is kind of staying out of the headlines as of the past couple days. So, hey, as long as that happens, I'm happy. Hopefully the market can start to get back to the upside here. I know yesterday we did very well when those FOMC minutes came out, and I'm really hoping to see the SPY maybe bounce off of 442 intraday today and maybe hold up on this support. If not, we might have to play it to the downside if it keeps breaking down.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, Tom. I will say there have been a lot of interesting earnings reports lately. Like, of course, we had Nvidia last night, or yeah, just in after hours, and Nvidia is just it's not holding up too well. Their earnings were pretty good, but clearly not good enough.
Yeah, they were pretty flat last night, but they just continued to go lower here. It looks like at market open, they just failed to recover back. They are turning over now, it looks like, and they actually broke below like their support of 255 that they've been holding up on the past few days. So maybe we'll start to see a bit of a sell-off out of Nvidia. I know that if we go look at like the 180-day 1-hour chart, you can see it's been having a lot of trouble breaking those resistances around 270.
Yeah, that's true. So definitely keep Nvidia on the radar. One stock that just like blew my mind yesterday, Tom, was Doordash. Like their earnings, or the market just loved their earnings. Like I know that they did report a lot of record numbers, which is always good to see, but it's still up like 19%. And I'll say this is pretty rare for all of the earnings that we've been seeing lately. Like I feel like, Tom, like over the past like month or so, like sure, we'll see a decent amount of stocks move to the upside or the downside significantly initially on their earnings report, but by the time the market opens, normally it like kind of retraces. But DoorDash, it's still up 18%.
Yeah, it's still staying up there. It is starting to come back down though, of course, at market open. So we'll have to see where it ends up today. But as it falls, there's a pretty big support at 110. And if we go look at stocks like Enphase, you can see they had a very similar move. They exploded up and then they just tanked off right after that explosion. I know Disney was another stock that did that as well. And even Disney's turning back over today after they were looking pretty explosive last night. But yeah, even they're turning back over, Mike. And it just seems like all these stocks that had really good earnings, like they explode up in after hours, but then the very next day they start fading back down. And, that's not a bad thing. It just sometimes that happens when stocks pop, 15% plus.
Yeah, poor Palantir's getting smackarooed on their earnings report, Tom. Like, we're getting really close to that $12 support.
Yeah, we really are. This one's been scaring me a little bit here. This support is pretty big. If we look at Palantir on like a 1-year daily chart, you can see that they've been consolidating down here around this $12 area pretty much ever since like the end of January. So hopefully they keep holding at $12. I know that has been a pretty big level and it is bouncing there. So I like that level, Mike. Hopefully it holds up, but with the way it moved with earnings, it's not looking too promising here. We're almost back down and touching it again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you have the sheet pulled up, Tom, the analyzer, because perfect. So if we go to Palantir, all of the information is updated, I believe, but their revenue has been growing, and you'll see once it loads up, like their revenue is consistently growing on the quarterly and yearly basis, and they are cash flow positive now too at the top. So that's good, but it's just not good enough for the market right now. It's been a wild earnings season to say the least, and I still think it's definitely one of those companies that has potential, and I'm still holding Palantir for the long term, but it definitely hurts when it takes a beating on earnings.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, it just sucks to see those types of numbers. I just typed in Apple to try to compare and contrast something. One thing I noticed with Palantir, Mike, is their net profit margin was pretty far in the negative. I know that's not going to be maybe too big of a thing. I know lots of growth stocks are like that, so it's not too big of a deal, but it is nice to see that those quarterly numbers continuing to go up. Like you said, I think that those are pretty good numbers, and that does show that they are growing in a good way. And I'm sure, I haven't really read too deeply into their earnings report, but I'm guessing that this has something to do with their outlook, Mike. And I know that the outlooks lately have been playing such a big role. They even made like Nvidia stock go down a little bit with the outlooks.
Yeah, and Nvidia, like their actual earnings were really good, and the stock's down 5%. And then, yeah, it's just been wild, Tom. Like this is like one of the reasons I hate playing earnings, because like you could have a company report great earnings in fall, you can have a company report bad earnings and a good outlook in rise. Like it's just like it's so wild and volatile around earnings, but that's the market.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that we actually saw Doordash. They ended up flying up 17%, and I'm actually going to bring up their article really quickly. So we can see Doordash is up 17%, but in the end, while Doordash did have record numbers as far as orders and stuff like that, and also like user numbers and stuff, they did miss on their EPS and their revenue, which is, kind of funny to see the stock flying up 16% after they missed on both EPS and revenue. But hey, I guess those outlooks, and it is good to see that they had record order numbers and stuff, but obviously they're just not getting up there with their revenue yet.
Very, very interesting. It's been wild, Tom. But yeah, I mean, looking at some of the other movement we're seeing today, I will say growth stocks are holding up decently, or at least DraftKings is. It's almost in the green, but the SPY's not really moving at all. I don't know about you, but I feel like over like the past week or so, we've been seeing so much money flow into precious metals like gold and silver. It takes a lot to move those like beasts, you can say, because like normally like gold and silver move very, very, very slowly, but the movement we've been seeing is definitely respectable.
Wow, gold's all the way up to 177 now. It looks like we did finally break above 175 on GLD, Mike, and I think that we might finally be getting that nice push up towards 180 since we finally broke 175. I've been waiting for this for a long time, Mike. We've had multiple attempts to go past 175, but we just kept failing and breaking right back down, kind of like back in November. So hopefully we do see that nice move back to the upside here. And I really hope to see this one retest 180 over the next couple of days, but we'll have to see how it goes. The gold market is getting volatile, Mike, and look at the implied volatility on GLD. I know it's not the highest in the world, but relative to the past year, it's pretty high.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's definitely on the uptrend, and it's on the uptrend while the ETF is moving up. Like a lot of times you see IV on the uptrend when the stock's moving down. So since both are moving up, it shows that one, the stock or the ETF is trending up, obviously, but it also shows that investors expect more volatility in the future. So basically, it shows that people are really buying up options at higher prices. So that's a good thing, in my opinion. So that's awesome. And then, Tom, before we were looking at GLD, I saw you were lurking at Roblox.
Yeah, Roblox is actually recovering up fairly well today. Roblox was another one of those growth stocks, kind of like Palantir, that got hit on their earnings, and they fell down to the bottom of their range here of the past few weeks. And it looks like Roblox is kind of bouncing off that bottom support. It's kind of extending back to the upside today. Now, with how much this one fell down yesterday, we might just want to expect a little bit of a pullback. But in the end, though, it's good to see it recovering. I know that they had a pretty bad move on their earnings. They fell from 74, and now they're all the way down at 56. So hopefully this one starts to consolidate somewhere and recover like we're seeing.
Yeah, Roblox had a really hard drop, but yeah, hopefully they do pop back up. I will say that overall they have been growing at a pretty good pace. It's just going to be, obviously it's going to be hard to continue to grow at the crazy pace that they have been over like the past 2 years or so, but still, like when you have giant companies like kind of, I don't want to say joining Roblox, but doing things on Roblox, like Nike with Nike Land, and even what the NFL is doing, I feel like Roblox is in a really good position, and I feel like it's just like the, I guess you can say like the first step to having even more like large institutions join their platform.
Yeah, me too. It's a really good thing to see more people getting into them, and then the thing about Roblox is it's like a little virtual world. So like you can get in there, you can, go to Nike Land if you want. You can go play basketball, you can go play soccer. It looks like now you can play NFL football. So they're definitely getting into a lot of different stuff, and it's cool to see. I really hope that this stock ends up turning back around eventually. I know those earnings were definitely not helpful for their case, but in the end though, I do like Roblox, and I feel like that over the next couple of years they will do pretty well, especially as these companies keep making more additions. And then of course the metaverse is just continued, or it's expected to just continue to grow, especially with all the VR capabilities coming out.
Yeah, it's true. And then just the gaming industry overall is growing at a crazy pace. So they definitely have a lot working for them.
Yeah, they do. And even like if we look at stocks like EA, they are down a little bit over the past few days. So that whole sector overall hasn't just been straight up exploding this month. So maybe once we see, EA and maybe Activision start to fly back up, maybe that'll help boost the gaming sector a little bit more too.
Yep, we shall see. But checking back in, Tom, I will say the China stocks are not looking bad. Baba and Baidu are definitely on the rise, and it looks like or at least Baba is like on the brink of breaking out.
Yeah, it really is. It's at a big resistance level that this stock has been at for a few days now, right around, you could say like 127 to 128. I have a level up there at 130, but there's been tons of levels around 120, or tons of bounces, I should say, around 128 over the past couple of weeks. And it looks like we are just about to break that. So hopefully we keep up with the momentum, Mike. These China stocks have been very volatile since they've been down here at the bottom. You can see Baba has pretty much been between a range of like 110 and you can say like 130 for the past couple months. And it looks like it's actually setting up pretty well. It formed a good support. I'll be honest, Mike, this one looks like a decent setup here, maybe for the next couple of weeks. It's going to be risky with those earnings, but I feel like that with the way we're seeing stocks move with earnings, I mean, we're either seeing stocks like Palantir that tank off, or we're seeing stocks like Enphase that shoot up 10%. So I feel like you might miss the boat if the earnings go well, but at the same time, if the earnings go south, I mean, with how bad Baba's been, it might take a pretty big tumble. But with the way Baba's been reporting, I don't expect their earnings to come in that negative.
Yeah, and they're already so low to begin with, because let me actually pull something up with Baba. So Baba's like highest price was around like $320 each, and now it's at 128. So it's like it's already very low, and they're trading at a good valuation relative to their fundamentals anyways. So I like them. It's a longer term play. It's like a share type play, but Baba's also one of those companies that historically has made for good short term plays too, because it's definitely like one of those like I guess you could say movers. Like a lot of times it's pretty volatile, and it does present usually a good opportunity for short term plays.
Yeah, it really does. And we can see like even over the past couple of weeks, it's had some pretty big intraday moves. Like I know that, they're not the biggest in the world, but to go up from lows of the day at like 123 to end the day at like 126 or 127, that's a pretty good intraday move, especially for a stock like Baba. And we do have a ton of room to recover, Mike. Like as we start to recover back, I mean, some of these gaps we have to fill, like between 150 and 160, are pretty big.
Yep, no doubt. Alrighty, so it looks like Keisha said, I was surprised that Walmart didn't get a pop. So yeah, Walmart, it's up a little bit. They had earnings. I just don't think it was anything that like really just wowed investors. And on top of that, the market was down just a little bit this morning, and it's been a pretty tough earnings season for a lot of companies.
Yeah, definitely. And I did see that they boosted their dividend, which is good. So maybe that'll help bring in some investors. But as we know, Walmart's a pretty slow mover. We can't really expect them to, fly up or down 20%. They're a little bit more established. And we can see on their past earnings reports, of course, they've had some decent moves, but nothing that's groundbreaking. So hopefully Walmart starts to turn around, Mike. So far today, they're having a green day. And they did kind of double bottom there around like 133. So hopefully we see a bit of a recovery out of them. I will say they recently broke that 135 support, and it was looking a little scary. So I'm glad to see them doing at least decent.
Alrighty. And then let's see. I'm just looking through some of these comments really quickly. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing major with the comments right now. Tom, like, what stocks you watching? Oh, wow, Rivian's actually popping up. Never mind. Never
Yeah,
mind.
Rivian is on fire here. We had that crazy news over the weekend of, or I should say, the news didn't necessarily happen over the weekend, but the report came out that George Soros bought some Rivian stock up a couple months ago, I believe. I don't know what his average price is, but I believe it's higher than where we're at now. But, ever since that report came out, Rivian's been moving up this week in a pretty good way. So hopefully we keep seeing this nice explosive movement, and they're having a day already up 5.25%. They're like rivaling Roblox up here.
I believe his average price is around $100. So, I believe. I mean, I'm not 100% certain, but still, yeah, I mean, it's up 5%, and it looks like we might be seeing a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up.
Yeah, definitely. And what's also kind of crazy with Rivian is that it bounced right off of that psychological $50 level a few weeks ago. And that's just such a big level there at $50 even. Looks like this stock obviously found a good support there, and lots of buyers are coming in now. And with the report of Soros buying, I think that definitely helps retail investors. But also, like, I feel like that whenever he buys, lots of other institutions are watching what he does because he's just been so influential over the years, and in good and bad ways. But in the end, though, he's generally pretty good with his trades. And I know he bought into Rivian. That's crazy that his price is all the way up there or around it. But, Rivian does have a long way to go to catch up to that valuation. And I'm really hoping that they can just start to, turn it around. They've been beaten down quite a bit. And, probably it was probably a good thing that it happened. Like, their stock was way overvalued at the time. They had no sales. Then they even had production issues. So hopefully they can start to turn it around. And whenever they report this next report, Mike, if they start to report some good production numbers, I think that'll really help their stock. But that's going to be the main thing to look at to see how that production's going.
Gotcha. All right. So we have Mike saying, are you guys into NFTs also? So I'm not a big NFT buyer. I really only bought one NFT, and that was on DraftKings. It was one of the Tom Brady NFTs, like right when they first came out, and it's just like I honestly I just mainly did it because of DraftKings, but I feel like Tom Brady has left quite a legacy. So I feel like if I were to invest into any NFT, I wanted it to be that one. So I did buy a Tom Brady NFT like months ago. I think at one point I was up 100%, and then I think now I'm down 50%. So that sucks. But yeah, I mean that's really that's it.
Yeah, and I don't really get into them at all either, but I will say I was trying to get the Tom Brady ones whenever Mike was, but I wasn't graced. I didn't get picked to buy it, and I didn't end up buying it on the marketplace, so I didn't get it. But in the end, I don't do NFTs either. And I will say, be careful when you buy NFTs. I know that some of them have done very well, but keep in mind other ones have also done pretty bad. And, I know some obviously are more popular than others, so try to get something that you think will grow in value. Kind of like what Mike said, he got a Tom Brady one. Obviously people are just randomly making a whole bunch of these right now, so I would just make sure I got one from a reputable source.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Tom, speaking of DraftKings, they have earnings tomorrow. I hope it does not look like Palantir's earnings today, but I don't want to... I mean, of course, earnings are always 50-50, so only God knows what's going to happen, but still...
Man, I'm praying for a nice report also. They just legalized in New York. I don't know if that is going to even translate into this quarter's earnings or not, because I know it happened fairly recently ago, but it's definitely a crazy thing to look at. They're in a very similar setup that Palantir was. They were beaten down. They've been kind of stuck at this lower range. And like we've been seeing, some stocks like Enphase pop up, but then sometimes we have stocks like Palantir that, came right back down to the bottom of their range. And, if DraftKings falls back down towards $17 or $17.50, I will be pretty worried about them in the short term, but I'm really hoping those earnings come in better than expected, Mike. And I would think that they might. We've had a lot of crazy stuff going on over the past few months, especially in the sports betting sector. The NBA started, we had the NFL going on throughout that whole time, and I really hope to see the DraftKings had some some good things to report, especially with New York being legalized. And I think
True.
that'll really help their outlook, maybe more than even their numbers over the past couple months.
True that. True that. So we'll see, Tom. We got less than 24 hours, so it's gonna be a wild one.
I'm going to be waking up early for that one tomorrow.
Oh, you know it. That's a given. So awesome stuff there. I'm just trying to find something like exciting or something that's moving right now. Like I'm not really seeing too much. I mean, it looks like the market's falling off a little bit. The market is down like 1% right now. Yeah, I mean the
Ooh.
VIX is trying to pop up, but let's see. Microsoft's falling off. Zoom. What else? Microsoft. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're getting towards the lower end of that SPY range.
Yeah, we really are. We actually are kind of bouncing off of 442 right now. So hopefully it holds up. But I'll be honest, the SPY, in my opinion, is just not looking the best today. Of course, there could be some news or something that comes out that turns the market around. But as of right now, it's just continually getting rejected around 446. And we're having a lot of trouble breaking out, even though we're not having too much Russia news. The Russia news has not even really been in the headlines too much today. So, I was maybe expecting to see the SPY pop back up, especially since we saw crude oil kind of pop down since Russia hasn't really came out with any news. But it looks like the SPY is just continuing to just slowly slide off to the downside here.
Interesting. How are gold and silver holding up?
Let's see, intraday, they're actually doing very well. Gold is coming right back to the upside, which is good, kind of inversing the market, which I like to see with gold, and that's great to see. Let's check out SLV. SLV is not breaking out as much as gold, but it's still looking pretty good, and SLV is trying to get back up to those 22 levels of last week, or I should say of Monday, but it's getting pretty close, and as long as gold continues up, silver should follow along.
Awesome. All right. On a different note, it looks like Tesla's falling off just a little bit. I mean, it's nothing crazy right now, but we're still like, I guess you wouldn't say like straddling that $900 support.
Yeah, we are. Tesla's been here for a long time, too. It's kind of insane to see. Looking at it on like the 180-day, 1-hour chart, you can really see all the bounces that have been happening here right around 900. And if we fall back below there, it's going to be worrisome for me in the short term. We've had so much failures to break out, and we're also like right below the blue trend line. We can see on the daily chart, it's made a lot of bounces off this trend line. And what's weird is that if we go to the 5-day, 5-minute chart, or I should say, if we go to the 180-day, 1-hour chart, you can see that this morning it's actually kind of touching that blue trend line. So hopefully we don't see a big sell-off here come in soon. And with the SPY down, it definitely doesn't help Tesla.
True. Yeah. The market is definitely trading lower right now. We just fell right below that 442 support. It's definitely falling with a good amount of momentum. We're now down 1.25%. We're trading lower as we speak. AMD's on the low ticker. Nvidia falling, Fastly falling lower, Boeing. Lots of selling pressure.
Yeah, my free day trade today was actually AMD. I had it, I believe, if we pass above like 118, I had it for calls. And if we fall below 114, I have it for puts. And it looks like right now it might end up going to the downside. And I'll tell you what, if the SPY keeps selling off, AMD might be a pretty good day trade. But looking at it overall, another stock that moved to the downside, Mike, is, we had Matterport move down last night. They're down 12%. And another one, Mike, is FSLY. Poor Fastly. Look at them down 31%. Like, wow. I mean, we're just seeing so many stocks drop with earnings lately. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's been rough. Vicky said there are lots of news this morning on Russia, and that's the reason the market is dumping. Yeah, the Russian news definitely doesn't help. It's added a lot of volatility over like the past couple weeks, and the bad part about the Russian news is like it can just come out at any time. Like at least with earnings, we know like, all right, earnings are scheduled for this date and this time. Be ready. But Russia, like anything can happen at any time.
Yeah, it really can. Like, and you have to also keep in mind that like Russia is on like a different clock than us. So like there's so much different timings that can happen with it. And, as we look at this, apparently CNBC is reporting that the evidence on the ground is that Russia is moving towards an imminent invasion. That's what Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfeld said. I don't know what she's exactly the ambassador for. It looks like she's like with the United Nations, but in the end, I mean, it's just bad to keep seeing news come out like this. And Vicky, if you know any specific news, definitely let me know because I'm failing to see it on a lot of these platforms right now. But hopefully we see the news start to slow down. I know that Russia announced a couple days ago they were pulling troops back, and then NATO came out yesterday and said, "Hey, Russia lied. They're actually not pulling troops back." So I don't know which one to believe, but the market's definitely digesting it in a bad way. And since we've broke that big support at 442, I have to lean to the downside.
Gotcha. All right, Peter said UVXY is about to skyrocket. It 100x's every time a war starts. So we'll see. A 100x would be one heck of a conflict, but yeah, I know what you mean with UVXY rising, especially in times of uncertainty and panic. But yeah, it's definitely trending up. So if you're in it, I hope it pops for you. But at the same time, I'd rather have the market just pop up and UVXY fall.
Yeah, me too. That would obviously be best case scenario there. And, while UVXY does go up with a lot of conflicts, I will say 100xing would be pretty insane. I really hope it does do that, but, I don't see it happening. And in the past, I've traded some of these stocks to the upside during conflicts. Like, I remember when the SPY took a huge dump during the China sell-off in like 2018, the VIX popped up in a pretty good way, but still, I'm not sure at 100x. Like, that was pretty insane to see how it went up, though. I know that sometimes it goes up like 10x and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if UVXY started flying in a good way, especially if the conflict news keeps getting worse. But, as of this morning, I haven't really seen too much news on the whole situation. So maybe we'll have to see, and maybe some bigger reports will come out.
Yeah, so Tom, related to the Russia thing, Vicky said the news is on Fox News and AP News, so feel free to pull that up if you want. But I just went on Fox, and it looks like Russia expels U.S. diplomat from embassy in Moscow as threat against Ukraine rises. So, yeah, I mean, these tensions are definitely heating up. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good, Tom.
Yeah, I'm getting the article. I just had to fix all my ad blockers and everything like that because, of course, Fox News doesn't allow your ad blocker. But if we go look at this, there's actually a report 1 hour ago that says Pentagon calls the reported shelling of village troubling. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says Russia is building up positions on the Ukrainian border and is not drawing down. And they said that we've seen the reports of the shelling and they're constantly troubling. We're still gathering the details, but we've said for some time that the Russians might do something like this in order to justify a military conflict. So we will be watching this very carefully. So yeah, definitely the news is not looking good. I know Fox is reporting on it. So hopefully hopefully the news slows down. I was hoping to see it slow down today, but with reports of shellings of villages, I mean, that's definitely not good. I don't know exactly the whole situation, but anytime you hear news of anything like that, it's not good. And like they said, it might be Russia trying to give themselves a good reason to invade. I've heard stuff in the past where countries might shoot a rocket and maybe blow up some of their own stuff just to get the conflict started. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I think that's what they're alluding to.
So I read a little bit about it this morning, and from my understanding, Ukraine shelled the village where a lot of pro-Russia rebels are. So from my understanding, it seems like the U.S. and NATO and everyone is expecting Russia to use an event like that in order to justify an invasion. Now, there's a ton of updates, so I might have that wrong, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and a lot of people are trying to say that, hey, Russia might be doing that to themselves and then trying to say that it was Ukraine doing it. Because, sometimes it's hard to tell. Obviously, these satellites and stuff, it must be pretty difficult for them to track missiles through the air and stuff like that. So I don't know, but it's definitely not good news either way. And hopefully the conflicts stay away. Anytime now that they're actually starting to actually have shelling and starting to actually fire stuff at each other, I think that's a bad sign.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up that one Russia ETF we were looking at. I don't know if it was ERUS or something else. Let me see.
ERUS. Here we go. This is an iShares Russia one, so maybe this is the one.
Yeah, because I just looked it up. I could. Oh wait, I could have swore it was a different ticker, but still, it's still a Russia ETF. As you'd expect, that one has been struggling a lot over the past couple months.
Yeah, it really has. And yeah, I think that it was also a different ETF. I think it was MSCI, maybe. Let's see. Nope, I'm not sure. So yeah, either way though, it's definitely pretty crazy. And I really hope to see that that Russia turns things around. And with these ETFs, Mike, some of these are pretty insane actually. Like I'm looking on the ETF database for some of these Russian ETFs. It looks like RSX might be the one that we were talking about. That one, okay, I think this was the one. It's the VanEck Russia ETF.
Yes. Yep.
We can see how much this has actually been going down over the past few months. It's kind of insane to see it down almost like a growth stock.
Yeah, that is true. Good find, Tom. I would have never got that one.
Yeah, thank God ETF database saved me here. So there we go. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. So if you guys are interested at all, there is some Russia ETFs. There's one called RSX. There's ERUS. And then there's also RUSL. Kind of reminds me of the Russell, but yeah, RUSL is another one. So there's 3 of them there, and they all have been underperforming quite a bit this year. Like it's been kind of crazy. Like I don't know why they're falling down so drastically, and maybe that's part of the reason why Russia is trying to get into conflicts, because their markets are tanking.
Yeah, I would expect if they got into the conflicts for the market to only tank more though, too, especially theirs. So
it might, but sometimes, people say, hey, after World War II, the U.S.'s economy boomed, and so did Europe's and stuff like that after the war. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see how it goes. But I know sometimes, like kind of like in 2001, we had the dot-com bubble, the big sell-off, and then we got into that conflict. And, I know it didn't help the markets for like a couple months, but, over the early 2000s, we started recovering back up into 2008.
Yeah. I feel like... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, I feel like that's not the case. Like that for Russia. Like I doubt that they're like, all right, we're gonna get into this conflict to, help the markets, because I feel like they'd have to go through hell, and then if they won, then maybe like years later their markets would recover.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a weird situation. There's lots of stuff that can happen, and I was just saying that in the past, a lot of people look at those things and they also look at it as, Russia's might have not been doing as well the past few months, and maybe their public sentiment towards their country is lowering. And whenever you get into war, people find some patriotism, and then they, come in and they start liking the country a little bit more and stuff like that. So maybe that could be another scenario. But in the end, it's crazy to see all these tensions going on. And you would think, I know that Russia had a lot of tensions with Ukraine in the past regarding Crimea in like 2014 and 2015, and maybe we can like go back and like reevaluate that situation and maybe see how that's playing into now, because I know that, Crimea was part of Ukraine back then too, and I believe it got liberated, and now they're going after even more of the country. So it just seems like this is just a never-ending situation at this point.
Yeah. All right. So we have Sean saying, cut, bring in the actors now. And then Vicky said, Russia is just looking for an excuse to invade, fake attack. If the UN had placed 300,000 soldiers in Ukraine as soon as Putin placed their soldiers, this would not be happening. Remind me the reason NATO was created. NATO, UN, OMS, and all of these organizations full of incompetence. This would not be happening. Not tensions, Tom. Russia invaded them in 2013 and now wants the remaining of the country. Not good. Yeah, I mean, either way, it's any war news with any country or anything is not good. The market is clearly, or at least investors are clearly de-risking themselves, as we've been seeing over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, they really are. And it's definitely having a big effect on our markets. And I really hope that Russia starts to slow things down. But on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, it kind of sucks because Russia can look at our markets and they can look at our media, blowing this and making it so crazy that Russia can honestly, they have a lot of power right now to to affect our markets in pretty much any way they want to. Like, do they want to make the U.S. market crash? Fine, send some more troops at the border. Maybe bring some trucks there or something. Like, it's kind of insane. They have a lot of power right now, and I really hope that the markets end up recovering off of that news. And yeah, I know the conflicts have been going on for a long time, and they invaded Crimea in the past. And like you said, Mike, there's even like pro-Russian rebels that are like in Ukraine. Like, the thing is like a lot of people in Ukraine still think that they're Russians from a long time ago. And it's kind of mixed, it's like half the country thinks they're Russians, half the country wants to be Ukrainian because Russia is obviously a pretty crazy country. So it's kind of like a weird conflict going on. It's almost like I'm not going to say it's like a civil war, but it kind of is, because like some Ukrainians even want to be Russians, which is kind of, well, it's not too crazy if you look at it as, Ukraine used to be Russia back in the 80s.
Yeah. I'm curious what the actual distribution is, though. I would expect most Ukrainians do not want to be a part of Russia.
Yeah, it's probably like a 30% to 70% difference. But the thing is the 30% is still quite a bit. And it would almost be like as if the U.S., like it would imagine like the U.S. has like the North and the South. It's like half the people in the South probably wanted to be on the North in the Civil War, but they just got stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time, probably.
Yep. Alrighty. So we have Bravo joining up saying, "What's up, guys? Russia tanking the market. What do you guys think in terms of the SPY? Can you see daily SPY or weekly? Where are we heading? Just sold a few of my Disney shares. What's the update?" All right. Okay. So basically, the update is tensions are still rising. We had the articles pulled up a couple minutes ago, but from my understanding, Ukrainian shelled a village that was mainly comprised of like pro-Russian rebels, and then Russia is expected to use this sort of attack as an excuse to invade Ukraine. That's how I'm understanding the situation. NATO has also warned everyone that Russia might use like a small little operation / attack like this from Ukraine in order to invade Ukraine. So, there's still a ton of we're getting new updates like every minute, so we'll know more as time goes by, obviously. But Tom, looking at the SPY, what are you thinking? Like, we were in a channel between like 442 and 446, but we're below that now.
Yeah, personally, I think it's not a good sign. I think that we might continue to see some sell-offs here. I did have a lot of hope heading into today that we might end up going back to the upside if these tensions ease. But, with the talks of the possible false flags and everything like that, it's definitely not good news. Like, if Russia stages some type of attack and blames it on Ukraine, or if Ukraine does do something, in the end, that's going to give Russia just, a really good reason to do what they want. And if that does happen, the SPY is right around another support around 435. We did just fall below 442, and I would almost expect us to at least, we got pretty close to 440 today. I would say that's like a level that I would definitely see us hitting. And then as we start to keep going down, I would definitely eye up 435. And I could personally just see it keep selling off. The news is not stopping, unfortunately. And with the talks of this shelling and everything like that, it's definitely not good news. And I'm sure more news is going to keep dropping throughout the day. So definitely be prepared. It's a crazy time. And I will say right now, anyone who tells you that they know for 100% certainty that the SPY is going to go down or up, they're kind of crazy, because any of these events can change at like the snap of your fingers. Russia could come out and say, hey, we're pulling all of our troops back. Like, they could come out and say that tonight. But will they? Probably not. The more likely scenario is probably that there's more shelling going on or something like that, and the market might end up dropping. But it's just a really crazy scenario, black swan events, and nobody really knows which way it's going to go. But with the way we're breaking to the downside, I would definitely lean down.
Yep. We shall see. Hoping for the upside, though.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we need it. We've been down for a while now. It's been a rough beginning of the year.
Yep. Alrighty, so we have Bravo saying, do you think selling the pop is smart here? It can be, but the problem is that it's impossible to time this in a good way. Like, like I said this earlier in the stream, like it's one thing when we have unpredictable moves with earnings because at least we know that earnings are set to come out at a certain time, and like we know what to look for. With Russia and Ukraine, there are so many variables and things that just nobody knows. Like any update can happen at any time. So for that reason, I would say don't even try and time the market. I feel like the best thing to do is make a logical decision now on whether or not you want to be invested during this time. If you do, just buy and hold. And if you don't, just sit on the sidelines. I just feel like the worst thing to do is to like shift back and forth, back and forth. Like if you like buy every time the market looks like it's safe and it's gonna go up, and then you sell every time we have bad news with Russia or earnings or inflation or the Feds or anything like that, I feel like that's just gonna lead to losses. But if you make a logical decision now and be disciplined and stick with your thought process, I feel like there are multiple ways to profit.
Yeah, and there's also like lots of opportunities with everything going on like in the oil market and everything like that as well. It's a really good time to keep a level head. It's going to get volatile over the next couple of weeks. So, as we've been seeing, the IV is getting pretty strong. I mean, on the SPY, it's pretty decent, but even on some of these like individual companies, like, well, Apple's has been coming back down a little bit, but I feel like that with all these tensions and everything, like if Apple and the market starts to come down, we're going to see the implied volatility start to shoot back up again as the market starts to go crazy. And it's a crazy time, Mike. I cannot believe that we're having all of these tensions go on right as our inflation gets to 1982 levels, and also, right as like Omicron starting to end and everything. Like it was looking like it might be a pretty good time for a nice uptrend with maybe COVID starting to go away and everything like that. But now we have the Feds raising rates and Russia going on, and I feel like there's just so many bad things just piling on top of each other right now. Like the markets are just getting weighed down a little bit.
Yep. All right, we have Cornish mentioning DWAC, Tom. This one's on the move. DWAC, it's breaking its high of day, and we're just under like $90.
Yeah, we are. This looks pretty nice, actually. We broke above that high of yesterday, like 87.50, and it's starting to run up in a pretty major way. Looking at DWAC on the 1-year daily chart, I mean, wow, this one has been really recovering back up. I know that their launch was supposed to happen, Mike, February 21st, and then they pushed it back, I believe, to sometime in like March. So we'll have to see how this one ends up playing out, but it looks like it is going on the uptrend heading into the launch, which is nice to see. And sometimes in the past we've seen like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. So maybe when the launch happens, this stock will start to slow down. So be a little careful of that, but at least heading up into it, it's having some momentum now.
Yep. All right, Keisha mentioned Walmart too and how it's looking nice now. Yeah, Walmart's not looking bad. It's up 3%, which initially you're like, oh, Walmart, 3%, that's nothing. But a 3% move is pretty decent for a slow-moving stock like Walmart.
Yeah, it really is. That's a pretty good move to the upside. It's getting back up to those pre-market levels that we saw with earnings. So I'm glad to see it. I know Walmart has been a safe, slow-moving company the past few years, and I'm glad to see them holding up. They've also been kind of beaten down the past couple of months. They're off of highs of 150, and they kind of bounced at that support down here around 135. So I'm glad to see them moving back up. And like I said, they're going to be a slow mover, but for the longer term, they should be pretty safe compared to, some of these growth stocks at least.
Yep. All righty. And then welcome Mason to the stream, top of the morning. Vicky said hit that like button. So yeah, if you guys like the stream, definitely demolish that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and Tom and myself greatly appreciate it. Tom, Vicky was asking for some levels on Z.
Yeah, Z's actually starting to break out in a pretty big way here, or it's just about to. It's like right on resistance. Z had a big tumble with their earnings. Obviously a couple or the last quarter they reported, and they had a pretty big resistance that they had forming right around $65 ever since they fell below that. And I will say they are straddling a big resistance right now. If they break above 65, I could see this one having a pretty good move, especially since they did well with their earnings. I think that's a really good sign that they ended up popping up with the earnings. I don't know the exact numbers, but I was glad to see Zillow go back to the upside. I know this company got hit pretty hard whenever they reported their earnings. And Mike, was this the company that said they were done buying and selling houses?
Yes, it was, Tom. As you can
Oh, okay.
see.
So,
Uh,
yeah, it looks like they got out of one of their bigger markets there, buying and selling houses. And I remember that when they said that, their stock really took a tumble. So I hope they start recovering back, but we are at a major resistance. Maybe if we break this today, it can make for a pretty good day trade. And it looks like it did break it very slightly, but keep in mind, it might fake out. It only broke it by a couple of cents. I would almost make it break above like $66 or something.
all right, Tom. We also need the levels on TTD.
The trade desk. I know this one's been all over the place with their earnings, and they are recovering back up. Now, this one is a little bit more volatile, I'd say. Like in the shorter term, they've been more of all over the place. I would go ahead and make TTD pass above $85. That looks like a big resistance from the end of last week. In pre-market with their earnings, they ran up to that $90 resistance. So if we break 85, 90 will be the next level after that. And as far as support, 75 is huge. And then it looks like right around $80. I hate to keep using the whole dollar marks, but it looks like that's what's playing out the best.
Yep. A lot of times it ends up that way, It's just a psychological level.
Yeah, I guess so. And it happens all the time. Like I know even earlier in the week, you were like, man, it seems like every 50-cent mark has been a bounce lately. It's kind of crazy.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's see what we got. Welcome to the stream, Square. Bravo said, I feel like there might be a reason to start a war. Basically, war leads to recession and eventually decrease inflation, even though it could lead to inflation too, but war has shown to recession. Yeah, war is never a good sign. Unfortunately, the U.S. government, even if the government doesn't say it publicly, they like war for a variety of reasons that we're not going to get into. But either way, the market's definitely not liking it. Tom, speaking of war, like how are like some of these like defense stocks doing? Like we got Lockheed Martin, we got General Dynamics. What else we got? Like NOC. Yeah, you read my mind. And there were a couple other ones too, but looks like they're holding up relatively well.
Yeah, and even Boeing's a defense stock we can't forget about. They make a lot of stuff like their F-35 Lightnings and stuff like that, I believe. So hopefully we keep seeing, it's not like Boeing and these defense stocks are moving crazy today, but I will say they've been doing pretty good the past few weeks. Like if we look at Lockheed Martin on a 1-year daily chart, ever since December, they've been kind of going to the upside. And I know that the Russia tensions haven't been around that long, but it seems like the defense stocks really aren't doing too much. They're just kind of consolidating up here at these resistances, but they are holding up, which is good with all these tensions. So maybe we'll see Lockheed eventually go up and break above $400. That would be nice. And looking at General Dynamics, it looks like they've been holding up a little bit better. They've been less volatile. Same thing with Northrop. They're also kind of holding up a little bit better than Lockheed, but I don't know. It's going to be tough. Like the main thing is like, if we go to war with Russia, like to be honest, like I feel like the stocks are going to be like the least of our worries at that point. Like I'm going to be more worried about getting nuked or something. Like I just couldn't even imagine war with Russia. I know that there's a lot of tensions right now, and we might like send supplies to Ukraine, or we might like give them missiles or something like that, or we might do something from super far away. But I don't really see us getting into a full-blown war with Russia. If anything, I would think it's almost like the Vietnam or the Korean War, kind of like how Russia was kind of helping the opposite side.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we'd be doing that, like with Ukraine.
Yeah, it would be us this time.
Yeah. We'll see, Tom. All right, we have, on a positive note, we have Mike saying Roblox is in the green. Let's check it out.
Wow, it actually is. It's holding up. I know it was doing well this morning. It's actually up 3.6%. Looks like it did kind of double top up there intraday, which is not good, but I will say it's doing a lot better than what we're seeing out of a lot of stocks.
Yep. We also had Keisha mentioning Lucid earlier in the stream, and that one looks like it's still going.
It is. It's actually up above $30 a share now, which is great to see. Let's see this on the daily chart. Actually, Lucid's not looking bad right here, in my opinion, Mike. It's forming a great support around $26. It's having some pretty good bounces back to the upside, where if we could stay above 30, I think that would make for a great breakout here. The main thing is 30's been a huge resistance slash support on this stock, and we've been failing to break above it for the past few weeks. So hopefully we keep seeing this nice movement up above $30, but it's going to be tough. I can't believe that Lucid's up 3.3% with all this crazy news going on.
Yep. Yep. All right, Tom. Well, we covered all of the news. So do you have any last-minute plays you're watching?
Yeah, let's maybe see CNBC maybe one last time, see if there's any new articles coming out or maybe anything that we missed. More bad news about Palantir shares. It looks like Ford's Mustang Mach-E beats Tesla Model 3 as Consumer Reports top EV for 2022. So I don't know what's going on with this, but sounds like bad news for Tesla, good news for Ford. But either way, Ford stock is down, which is not good. And we have Tesla stock also trading down. So looks like this news hasn't really helped Ford out too much yet, but definitely an interesting headline. But you're right, Mike. I mean, we covered a lot of the movers today. I wanted to cover that because a lot of those EVs were up. Like you mentioned, Lucid was doing well. Rivian's been running this morning. Even Expels, which is like a Chinese EV company, had a good day. So looks like the EVs are doing well today. And some of the slower movers like Walmart, Kraft Heinz, you could say like Clorox, they're kind of back in the green today a little bit. So that's good to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we end today's stream, I want to personally thank all of you for joining. So we really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, Mike, George, Michael, Easy Rider Danger, Bill, Vicky, Keisha, Hunter, Head, Peter, Sean, Bravo, who else? Mason, Square, and J-Deep. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have a great time doing these streams. The market's not looking terrible today, but it could definitely look a lot better. We can see the SPY is now around 440, so I guess it is getting worse as we've gone further through the day. So hopefully we see a turnaround. Don't forget, we have a lot of Fed speakers today, so be on the lookout for that. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.